Welcome to the AirCon Vault. Here you can find the recordings of the live streams from AirWiggle's audio conference. These are made free thanks to our sponsors: A Sound Effect, Aftertouch Audio, Boom Library, Fmod, Game Audio Learning, Game SoundCon, Kilohertz, Rev Rooms, Soundcuts, Strata from Audio Kinetic, and AirWiggles, the online home for audio people. We hope you enjoy the video.
Hello and welcome to AirCon25. In this panel, we're going to be chatting to some film folks about working and finding work in film. My name is Dan Pugsley, and I've been working as an audio freelancer for about 15 years in games, films, adverts, animations, and everything in between. There's a whole bunch of questions I'll be putting to the panel here, and I'll try and get to some Q&A questions at the end as well. So there's a little Q&A button with a little sort of comment thing and a question mark at the bottom of the screen. So I think that's where you should put questions for the Q&A. Maybe you're here with the goal of looking to get into film audio, in which case fantastic, or maybe you're here from the game side of things and want to get into game audio specifically, and some of you might be thinking, why would I work in films or do film sound design? So before meeting the panel, I think it's good to quickly cover why working in film and linear media could be very useful to think about doing, even if your end goal is game audio. By working in film, you could learn almost all of the creative and technical skills you need to create audio for games, besides the implementation and middleware side of things, obviously. But this is actually how I got into the games world myself. So I worked on short films and short form content and feature films. And through that process, I learned all about editing dialogue, recording Foley, making sound effects, layering ambiences up, mixing music, and all the rest of it. So you do learn all the key creative skills in the film world too that you need for games. You can also get great experience of working with directors, dealing with feedback, working to tight deadlines, working in a team, and developing a solid ear for detail. Alongside this, you might develop a sort of better and faster intuition of what will work versus what won't, meaning you can get to an end result in less time or learn ways to speed up your workflow. It's all very well like being able to craft the perfect sound, but if it takes you a month to create it and someone else can do it in 5 minutes, who's going to get hired? So there are a lot of people who work only in film and a lot of people who work only in games, but I think there's so much that can be learned and carried over between the two mediums. And personally, I love them both, which is why I'm here. So without any more delay, let's meet our guests. Let's start with you, Jane. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for the lovely introduction. My name is Jane, and I work across film and TV. I don't really work in games, so that's something that I don't really know much about. But at the moment, I'm working at a post-production facility called Jumbook in London, and I specialize in sound effects editing, and we mainly do high-end television, lots of dramas, British dramas, a bit of sci-fi, a bit of crime, that kind of stuff. I've worked on projects like Black Mirror, One Day for Netflix, a few shows for BBC and Apple TV, and for Sky as well. And before getting into high-end TV, I did just about a bit of everything. So quite a lot of short form content, some independent feature films. I just worked on whatever I could get my hands on. A bit of part-time working in a recording studio, doing voiceovers and dubbing. And yeah, so I've had a bit of taste for every part of the post-sound workflow. So yeah, it's I feel like I've got, let's say, around 6-7 years experience in total. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Awesome. How about Victoria?
Hi, I'm Victoria. I'm in Chicago, Illinois, in the States right now. Yeah, I do kind of everything. A lot of TV, a lot of indie film, a lot of short film that happens in and around Chicago and like the Midwest area of the States. And then I've worked on some video game stuff, mainly some cutscenes for Destiny 2 for their DLCs and stuff like that. I've been an associate sound designer on those, and yeah, I've been working about like 8 years at Noise Floor at the studio I work at, and just trying to do more game audio stuff and use sound design. I do dialogue editing, a sound effects editorial, whatever. Like whoever is available just is able to jump on a project is what I'm able to do.
And Anya, how about yourself?
Hi everyone, I'm Ania. I'm based in the UK, in Scotland. I'm a freelancer. I've been working as a freelancer since I graduated, really, since doing my MA in sound post. So for 13 years now, or more actually, I've been working as a freelance, and in predominantly in film and TV post. But I've been doing dialogue effects, I've been cutting Foley and mixing as well. So just variety of, so in terms of workflow between the departments, if you like, I'm kind of all over the place in a way. I can kind of fit in to whatever role is needed. And it's mostly indie features, a lot of documentaries, a lot of fiction, from dramas and horrors and all sorts of kind of things. I've worked less with TV, and I haven't worked with games actually. This is an area I'm potentially interested in working as well, but I didn't have the luck. I've worked on a bit of podcasts as well, and some audio kind of installations, so a variety of work really. Yeah.
Awesome. So I think I'd like to start with workflow, if that's okay. At what stage of production are you typically brought onto projects when you're working on something new or with a new director? Yeah, feel free to chime in, whoever wants to go first or has something to say.
When they're done with the edit.
Yeah, I always wish it was sooner. It's never soon enough for me personally.
There's been one short film that they reached out before they even started shooting, and I was like able to read the script and stuff, but like it was the first time I'd worked with them, so I wasn't about to like give, sound direction for that, but it turned out good.
Nice.
Yeah. I think, like Victoria said, it's mostly people, especially new directors, perhaps directors that you haven't worked with, are thinking about this stage of sound post as they approach sort of ending of their edit. And it's a bit sad. I wish I could be employed, or we could be employed earlier on the production, because even if we're just chipping in on at the script stage or edit stage, or I had experience actually when I was sort of employed or brought in on a project, on a feature much earlier at the script stage. I read the script, I knew where they are going to film, and I could come up with just solutions to some problems that they would bump into during location recording. And I was actually in contact with the location recordist. I went on location and recorded some sound effects myself. And it's really nice when you oversee a project. And also it feels like you're part of the creative team. I mean, you are a creative contributor essentially, but I think not everyone sees you like that.
Yeah.
And if you're brought in from the beginning, you can actually have more influence over things.
Yeah, sad to say, that's been my experience too. I always see in interviews from people like Mark Mangini, I think he sound designed Dune and a bunch of other huge films. But he always seems to get in at the very start of the process. But that's not the same for everyone or people working in short form content or TV. We're sort of thought of at the end rather than at the start, which is a bit of a shame, because as you say, you can make such a big difference, I think. Who are the most important people on a film production to build trust with? Jane, what do you reckon?
That's a good question. I think a lot of times it's the director, because if you find something in common with the director, or if you get along, that's usually someone who will bring you to the next project. You know, if you build a good relationship with the director, that's someone they'll keep in mind with, and you can also influence the production a lot more if you have the trust of the director. And I think that's usually the case for short films and for feature films. A lot of times on TV, though, it's kind of a different story. It's more the producers. The producers are in charge. And so it's important to build trust with the producers, also the post-producers, or the PPS, post-production supervisors. So, yeah, those are the people that typically you would like to build trust with. But also if you work as a freelancer, and if you are working with a post house, so let's say you're getting your film mixed in the studio, then it's also good to build a relationship with the post house, because then they know that you are a trusted technician, and they can rely on you next time they need someone. So yeah, I think those are some of the key players.
Yeah. Either Victoria or Ania, have you got anything to add to that?
I think Jane covered pretty much all of it. But yeah, if you're working as a freelancer, and if you're, let's say, sound effects editor, it might be good to develop sort of connections, friendships with supervising sound editors also, because supervising sound editors are the ones that get the deal, let's say, with the production, with the director, or with the post house, and then they bring the team on, and they choose the team, and if they like you, if they like working with you, they will bring you on another job. So it's good to kind of stick with them as well.
That's a really good shout. The next question on the workflow front is, what's the best way to communicate with directors who may not have the best understanding in audio?
Explain every step of the process. Like, okay, we're going to take your film. It's going to sound so different, but in like the dialogue sounds better and edited and leveled and clean, you know? So I usually walk through the process with them of like, okay, if you want your film to be done, like in the best way it can be, this is like our process. We do dialogue edit. We have a backgrounds editorial person. We have sound effects, Foley, sound design, music. Like I just walk them through everything. Because typically they'll have questions about stuff like why is it taking so long? And it's like, okay, well, your film is an hour long and you had one microphone, you know?
Yeah, I think it's sort of like walking with them into it, because very often they are scared as well. They don't know exactly what this process is all about. So explaining, teaching them, but also I think because it's very often director's vision, kind of ensuring that they understand that it's always their final decision. We're not gonna change their film against their will. It's ultimately their film, and we're here to sort of like serve them and fulfill their vision.
Yeah. Totally agree on. Definitely agree on that. Like it's a lot of reassuring them, and just sort of paying compliments as well. Just being like your film is great, and I appreciate all of these things about your film, and also kind of being familiar with the visual side of things as well as being familiar with the audio side of things. So because so that you can have a bit of a bridge between audio and visual. So knowing a few of the things that happen on set definitely helps the conversation flow into post. So you're understanding more about like the framing, the lighting, what the camera is doing, as well as how that could affect you as a sound designer.
So you can kind of speak their language a bit, really, and relate to them on that level.
Yeah,
that's a good shout as well. I always find that directors I haven't worked with before are sometimes a bit nervous about how to talk about sound, or they don't know how to express things in a way that makes sense in the sound world. But I always just tell them, don't worry about that. Just tell me what emotions you want to convey, and then it's my job to interpret that into audio. So yeah, I always try and be very reassuring that I know what I'm doing. If they can just explain their goal and their vision to me, I can make it a reality through the audio. That's awesome. Should we talk a little bit about client bases now? So how much of your work is with repeat clients versus new clients? Let's go to Ania.
I think I predominantly work with the same clients, directors, because of, I think one of you mentioned earlier, Victoria, or maybe Jane, developing the relationship with directors. If they sort of worked with you once and you somehow clicked and you understand their vision and their language, then they trust you and they want to carry forward every all the connections that they had on their film set from their first film into the second film. So it's very often working with the same people, really. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I think for me as well, the majority of the people are repeat clients, but it kind of it comes and goes, I guess. If I've been paying a bit more effort into networking in such and such period of time, maybe I would get a few more requests. But sometimes it's also quite random, if I'm being honest. Like, some people just reach out to me, and it could be someone that heard my name from another person like 3 years ago at a random thing. So you kind of never really know when these things come up. And it's all about word of mouth and recommendations. Because if you don't know a sound designer and you're a filmmaker, you would ask your friends and be like, hey, have you worked with anyone that's a cool sound designer? And can I get their details? So yeah, it's that's kind of how the client base expands, I would say.
Has that been in your experience as well, Victoria?
Yeah, and for working at like a studio in Chicago, I feel like, it's a big name for Chicago. So it's kind of like, oh yeah, I work here, and everyone's like, oh yeah, I know, I've heard of that place. Like, I've heard of Noise Floor before. So that's like helpful, but at the same time, it's like, oh, but like we can still work together even if you don't have like a big budget and stuff. So it's like having that conversation with new people that do come about. But yeah, I would agree with what Jane and Anya said. Like, it sometimes it's random, sometimes it's like, oh, it's just the same people that I've worked with like last year if they're making another film. And then I would say, like, if I'm posting a lot on Instagram, people will like randomly be like, oh yeah, I saw you post this one thing that my friend was a part of, like, I'd love to work with you. So through Instagram as well.
Do just I guess regarding Noise Floor or post houses in general, do people come to you with projects then, or do they come to the company with projects? Like, are you finding work for the company? Sometimes?
Yeah, it's kind of like mixed. So like Noise Floor has its reputation in Chicago and stuff, so people know of it. And then like there's other people that, like, our Foley artist Katie Waters is very well known in the community. So like everyone's like, oh yeah, I want to work with Katie, so they'll reach out to her. But you're still working with the people that work here. So
yeah,
it just depends on the project too. So
that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the same with my company as well. Sometimes people would request a specific supervisor because they've worked with them before. But yeah, a lot of it is just by reputation, I would say. Yeah.
Nice. Should they arise, how do you settle disagreements between yourself and a director? This is the question, but then I wonder whether to break this into sort of creative disagreements or logistical or financial. Personally, for myself, if it's a creative disagreement, that maybe that would happen, but typically I would always I'd always let the director have the final say. I can suggest, but I would never tell them what to do because it is their project. But does anyone else have any other opinions on that front?
Yeah, same here. I think I see my role as someone who has maybe more expertise in sound as they do, but essentially I'm here to present them with options, and they make the choice.
Yeah.
So if there's any disagreement, then they are like panicking and afraid that I'm going to change everything, I just reassure them, saying that, you know, it's their film. In terms of financial disagreements, I think that's more a producer's role, or production. Yeah, so the directors very often don't know much about it unless it's a low production film and they kind of in charge of production and directing.
Yeah, that's been my experience some of the time when there's been a financial issue. Usually it's on smaller projects.
Yeah.
How about yourself, Victoria?
Yeah, for creative, yeah, for money stuff, I'm like, you can talk to our producer, sorry. Like, I'm so sorry. I just don't know like what to say. But for creative, yeah, it's more about if I'm like passionate about like the thing we did or the idea we put in and they're like not about it, like I'll want to have a conversation as to why it's not working for them. And like maybe we can like reach a middle ground. Maybe it's just too loud in the mix or something, so we can adjust it.
Hmm.
But yeah, I think like at the end of the day, it's their film and we're only there to like help make it their vision, right? So we can only have so much sway. But yeah, there's times where I'm like, but this is so good. And they're like, no, I
Yeah.
don't like it. Like, so it just depends on who you're working with. And I think it depends on like your relationship with the director. Like if you've worked with them a long time and you have that rapport, you can be a little bit more like not professional, I guess, or you can like be more like, okay, let's actually talk about this, as opposed to it being like a working relationship. So
Yeah, I totally agree with what you both said. It is ultimately the director's film, which it sounds a bit sad because we are also, you know, a part of it. But I think there's it is you know, it really depends. Like if the director is very easygoing, like I've worked with people who are very like they don't really mind. They just they always kind of love whatever I've contributed. They hardly give any notes, and I'm like, great, amazing. They just really trust other people's opinions, and they trust my input. And on the completely opposite end of that scale is, you know, directors who are very stubborn and maybe they have very specific vision and they like to micromanage a lot. They give like hundreds and hundreds of notes about every single time code. Like, can you move this sound 2 frames earlier? Can you make it 2 dBs quieter? Or, you know, and those kind of really granular things. So yeah, if you have the time to be like very, very micro about things, then sure, that's a way to work. But a lot of the times, if you're short on time or if you're short on budget, then you have to pick and choose what to let go of and what you really want to pursue and what's important for the film. So yeah.
Logistically, do you ever have to go into those sorts of conversations? Would that be with the director? If you're running out of time, but they're giving you pages and pages of notes, who makes the decision on what gets done or where the priorities lie?
I would say, yeah, the producer usually would be in charge of scheduling and money. But yeah, I definitely get a lot of stuff when I'm working on a low budget short film and they just keep making changes. It just keeps dragging on. And it's like I've spent 5 extra days already beyond the original budget. And at that point, it's very difficult to be like, hey, excuse me, you need to pay me a bit more because I've spent so much more time now. There are things you can do, like have a contract. So some people do a contract beforehand, and it's like it limits the amount of sort of revisions or the amount of notes or extra days that can be done. And then it would be like, well, we've hit this limit, so it's going to have to be an overage, an extra charge. So yeah, you can do those things as well. sometimes, sometimes people are nice about it. So, and a lot of indie films, in my experience, like short films, they don't have contracts, and it's always a gray area. So it's quite difficult to know.
That's been my experience. Often the lower the budget, the more demanding people are, and the less they know what they want, and the more revisions you need to do. So yeah, it's a bit of a tough one. There was a composer I worked for once where he maybe do something like 20 revisions of the same 10-second advert. So 20 revisions, and he ended up going obviously with the first one I did. Yeah, very standard story.
Sometimes they're like that. Sometimes they're like that.
Is it the same over in Chicago as well? Would you sort of?
Yeah, pretty much. I think like that's with any filmmaker, right? If they don't really have an idea of what they want, then it's harder to get there because like anything is possible. But if you're working on a full-length feature, but it's indie and they don't have a ton of money, and then you're like, okay, well, I know that's like in the back of my head, and you're trying to do your best to like get all their notes in and stuff. It can be a lot for sure.
Sort of on that topic, what are some of the red flags to look out for projects that come along?
I think if you get a director who is also a producer and is also an editor, maybe compose the music as well,
and is also the star, the lead actor.
Yeah, that's for sure one of them. I would kind of go off of what I was saying earlier of like, if they don't really know what they want, that I recently had a conversation with a filmmaker that was like, oh yeah, I want this whole montage scene to have montage. So like usually no like added sound effects or sound design, but they wanted something to explain like this whole story that's supposed to happen that the audience is supposed to know, but we don't see it. And I'm like, girl, like, okay, so we should talk about this because if you want to hear specific things, that all needs to be built because we don't have anything to work off of, right? It's all audio at this point. So like, yeah, having that conversation early on, if you can, about that is like nice, but still kind of like, okay, really think about this. Like before we even start, please think about it. So you have a better understanding of like what you want us to do. Cause like we can do it, but the problem is like time and money. And ultimately, if you have notes on that stuff, it's going to take even longer to get to like a point where they're satisfied, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Any other red flags?
I think, I think those were the main ones. I think a lot of the red flags don't come along until you're actually quite deep into the project. So it's like you don't realize until we're quite far into the project.
When they say VFX, they're still working on VFX, but you're like you're 2 weeks away from final mix. You're like, what?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think a film that never gets locked is a red flag that you only see too late.
Yes.
But yeah, if you could see it sooner, if it was a bigger flag, that would be really handy. You could try and get a bigger budget for it. With the uncertainty in freelance work, how do you maintain a steady flow of clients/projects? I know a couple of you are in-house, but I mean, I would assume that you might have both done a bit of freelancing outside of the post-house world as well.
I guess I haven't been completely freelance for a while. So so I've been working with this company for 3 years. But before that, to be honest, I didn't really have a steady flow of clients. So it was very changeable. It was quite unsteady. But I guess my solution at the time was to have a part-time job, which, it sounds like it's not, not the ideal solution. I would like to freelance and do that full-time. But sometimes you do have to come up with like clever little ways to just have a bit of extra income on the side. So doing teaching as well. I know a lot of people that work in post sound do a bit of that. So because I think the nature of freelancing is just that it is quite unpredictable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%.
Mhm.
How about yourself, Anya?
Yeah, similar. So, I'm actually started teaching about, I don't know, probably 6 years ago. I started giving presentations and doing workshops at different places. Not really on staff at any university, but I've been, doing workshops here and there over the last few years. And actually, I find it. Sometimes in everyday sound editing, I'm finding that I'm sort of replicating the same things over and over. And actually, when I'm talking to students or wannabe sound designers, I come up with, I get really good energy from them, or I come up with some creative solutions to things that I can carry forward to my work. So it's sort of, I do a bit of ads as well, and audio only kind of audio experiences. So I don't know. It's a difficult question because in the UK last year and this year actually haven't been really great. So in terms of work. So yeah, I mean somehow I'm kind of dodging the bullet, but yeah.
I think that's been the same in basically all creative industries the last couple of years, and especially, in games as well. So many studios have been closing down. People have been getting fired left, right, and center. I sort of hope / think that my freelance sort of plan all along has kind of been to do loads of bits of everything everywhere, so that if one area shuts down or kind of dies a bit, then another area will spring up. So I used to do loads of work in the YouTube world, and the YouTube for me has kind of gone off a cliff completely. That happened at the start of the pandemic when no one could film anymore. But then at the same time, I started working in games more. So when one thing dies, I've always sort of had enough going on to be able to pivot to something else and try and make something else work, and try and find something else to make money somehow. How about yourself, Victoria?
Yeah, I freelanced like right when I got out of school for like a year maybe. But I was also doing like location audio. I wasn't just doing post stuff. So still audio related. I would do like live sound things like for small bands and stuff like that. But it was very like short lived because once I got my foot in the door at a studio, I was like, okay, we're going this way. Because that's what I really wanted to do anyway. So yeah, I can't really speak to freelancing because I haven't done it too much.
That's fair. Yeah, but I mean, I think what I'm hearing, which I think I'd echo, is that like you've got to be open to anything to get your foot in the door and anything that's audio related, because it's all going to be helpful stuff to learn and helpful in your journey, basically. Which is kind of why we're here talking about films, hopefully with a big game audience. How do you stay up to date with current technologies, workflows, and industry trends in the film audio world? I feel like I
Ear
don't.
wiggles.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, for like sound design stuff, like it's the our tools are the same. So yeah, I love all the ear wiggles, like tips and tricks and stuff like that. There's also a couple like Slacks I'm a part of for like field recording that are really nice to be on.
Yeah, I think definitely a bit of social media. There are Instagram or WhatsApp groups, and just like let's say you follow someone that you like, so a sound designer that you're a fan of, you can sort of read about their projects, or just by talking to people. I think that's where a lot of the conversation about new tech comes along. Like, oh, have you tried this new noise reduction software? And people can often just share their experience on new tech. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say I echo that as well. I think I learn everything from sort of WhatsApp groups and go to the pub with people.
Yeah.
at audio meetups and things like that. How about yourself, Anya? Is there anything that anywhere you learn things from?
Same. Well, I have a kind of close group of people that I graduated with. So, and we do all sorts of effects or mixing as well. So I kind of very often would ask my friends. But there's WhatsApp groups where we sort of like lots of UK based sound editors are all together in a WhatsApp group. So you can always ask, and it's a friendly bunch of people. So that you're bound to get a reply. There's also like lots of Pro Tools expert and lots of websites that you can read up about things and plugins and stuff. So, but yeah, you kind of end up learning all the time.
Do any of you know if there's like a sort of obviously I think Airwiggles does cover film and games games and films. Is there anything a little bit like Airwiggles or like a good resource online in the film world for people looking to get into film or get more information about film audio?
Thinking. I know there's like sound design channels and stuff. There's a field recording Slack. So kind of like Airwiggles, but like just field recording. So getting sound effects from different locations. And there's a couple channels on there that are about like post and stuff, but it comes from different places. Like there's like a Chicago Discord for the game audio people, but we still talk film, like it's kind of, if it's audio, it's kind of anywhere for the things I'm on.
Yeah, that makes sense. This is a question maybe more for the in-house folks, but what was your in-house interview process like? How did you get into the Post House in the first place? Did you have to do a demo reel for them or a test or anything like that?
So there's the interview, which for me, I think it was remote, and then they sent me a test, which is just like a short couple of scenes, which I had to edit, and my supervisor my future supervisor gave me all the audio files. So it's like here are the ingredients of the hamburger, and you have to build the hamburger.
Really?
Yeah, cool. Yeah, and that was a very fun experience. So you're kind of you've got the raw materials, and you're allowed to add your own stuff as well. But just to ensure that you have enough material to work with. So and then I had to like build the sound effects for that scene. And yeah, I think they also sent this exercise to a few people and a few candidates that they were interested in. And yeah, and then I passed the test apparently. So yeah.
Because you were the best, obviously.
Oh, at the time.
That's really interesting. Though I haven't heard of that as as an interview sort of, or as an interview process of sending you literally the files. Usually, when I've done tests, it's been relying on my own sound collections, basically. How about yourself, Victoria or Anya? Have you had to go through anything similar, or what was it like?
Do you want to go?
Yeah, I mean, I sometimes recently for a podcast company, they wanted me to show how I clean up dialogue and things like that. So, I had a short-term contract with a company where I also had to do a test in sort of mixing a short ad for them. But they gave me ingredients, and then so I sort of like the stems, and then I did the mix, and I added some sound effects. So yeah, I mean, I would say it's a fairly standard process, and I think I quite like it because then I also see how they like working. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, when my journey with Noise Floor, I started as an intern. So like I think I had when I was a student, a reel or like a redesign that I had done. But I don't even know if they looked at it. So I got an interview as an intern, and then I would edit sound effects because they had there wasn't too much for us to do like at the time, so we were just kind of like either sitting in sessions, which was awesome, or doing whatever we could around the studio. So I would edit sound effects, and then they had a couple intern contests, so I did one of those, and yeah. just kind of like showing my work as I was there.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you kind of worked your way up from the ground floor kind of thing.
Yeah.
What long-term strategies do you recommend for building a sustainable and fulfilling career in film audio? I suppose Victoria and Jane, maybe your answers at this point is don't get fired.
Yeah. Don't get fired. It's okay. No.
Just keep your job.
Yeah.
No, have you got any thoughts on that though?
Yeah. I mean, I would just say like trying to like you're always learning, right? On every project.
Yeah.
Every project is different from the start. Like you're working with different directors and producers, whoever has creative say. Like an ad is so different than a feature film. So kind of like making sure you stay versatile in that sense. And for me, something I've been trying to do a lot more is just like get better at sound design. Like I'm okay, and like there's certain things where I feel like I can improve on, so I try to like put time into that, just because like I can use the same tools I've been using, but like, oh, what if I use something else, or what if I don't put reverb on anything and try to make it sound good without reverb, so that type of thing. And also like, yeah, always finding better ways to clean up dialogue.
Yeah. It's always a problem.
Always a problem.
How about yourself, Ania?
Yeah, our work is very often we come from we are very passionate about film and sound, and the work becomes our life, and we're sort of totally engrossed with it, and like working till 9 and for long hours. So I think part of the strategy is actually finding some sort of outlet, something else that you like as well, yoga, running, whatever, going to theater, enjoying live gigs. Yeah, just because if your head is in it all the time, then you don't really have perspective on it. So yeah, but I think like Victoria said, sort of, if you have any time in between your projects, sort of try to learn better the craft, or learn plugins, and have a play around with things like that, because very often it's easy to go into sort of like your go-to tools and do things in a similar way, and it ends up sounding very samey.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, you could get sort of stuck in doing certain things in a very repetitive way. Like if there's a sound that I like, for example, like wind in trees, I always find the same one, and then I copy and paste it onto every single scene with the tree in it. It's like sometimes because I'm short on time, on a tight schedule, and because over time I've associated all these sort of specific audio files that I'm like, I like the sound of this, I'm just going to use that. But then it's a little bit lazy. It's a bit like, sometimes I use the same doors, and then I realize that when I watch a film, I'm like, oh, I recognize this door sound. I have that. I've used it in another show. Like I'm like, so those. Sometimes I try to like ban myself from using those same sounds. Not allowed to use that creaky old wooden door because I want to challenge myself. I want to use something. Just use something else. So it's but it could be hard to keep things fresh. So definitely, as Anya said, do something outside of film. Find some other hobbies, and that definitely helps keep.
I think that's such a good point. You've got to stay sane at the end of the day, otherwise you can't do anything.
You mentioned running, and I'm like, oh, don't call me out. That's a new outlet.
That's what I've just started running as well at the moment. So yeah, that's my thing right now. Working on my couch to 5K. Let's talk a little bit about. We're going to talk about networking and also portfolios. I feel like they sort of go a little bit together in terms of sort of marketing yourself. Let's start with networking a bit. What are the best sort of audio post events to attend? Where can people learn more about film audio? We've talked a little bit about Air Wiggles, and there's a lot of good content on there. But in real life, if people are looking to meet people IRL, well, the big plug, I guess, would be there's a Game Audio London meetup on Saturday the 14th, and I think a worldwide Air Wiggles meetup. So yeah, have a look on airwiggles.com and see if there's anything happening near you. But yeah, that's the place to be in London on Saturday. But yeah, is there anywhere in Chicago that's good for game audio
Yeah,
or film audio?
for film too, but yeah, there's a Chicago game audio hang, so we at least once a month try to like meet up somewhere. I'm trying to think of like film related ones. There's like ad ones that like you have to have like a lot of money for, like AICP and stuff, where they host networking events, but like you have to be a member. Yeah, there is a game audio or hang this Saturday, so for Air Wiggles,
Nice.
but still it's a game audio hang. So yeah, and we talk all things audio. It's not just games, so it's helpful.
If anyone's in London, there are sometimes AMPS meetup. I can't remember what that stands for, but AMPS is a sort of audio society, mostly based in London. There's also BAFTA events. If you can get into BAFTA or you know anyone who's in BAFTA, they sometimes run like networking events specifically for film and TV or games as well. Game Audio London is good for London events for games. Am I missing anything, Jane? There's a few like London. What's it called? What's the sound meetup? Jamie Roden's one.
Sound Social?
Sound Social.
Yeah.
Such an
Is that
obvious
like
name.
is that like the same thing as like the game audio hangs, just for?
No, so that's a little bit different. It doesn't happen as frequently, but there's something called the Sound Social in London that happens a couple of times a year. That's mostly post audio people in the sort of Soho area in London.
Yeah, it's more for film and TV. That one. Yeah.
Is there much happening in Scotland, Ania?
Not really. I mean, nothing formalized as in with AMS or any of the, back to or any other union. It's just, people that know each other through either working together or working in post houses. Sort of, we've got a WhatsApp group and we meet in a pub. Try to do it every 3 months or so, but it's not a regular. But yeah, we have a WhatsApp group as well, so we kind of look out for each other, I guess, in a way. So yeah.
How would someone new to the industry get onto an elusive WhatsApp group?
Yeah, I think trying to network with people that are more experienced, but again, it's probably one of those AMPS meetups or game meetups, and I think only by chatting to people you can find out about those WhatsApp groups and then get on it somehow. But you have to, I guess, the in-person chatting to someone is the first step, really.
Yeah, I feel like there's only so far you can go online as well. I think there's so much that has to happen in person, meeting people. I don't know.
I was gonna mention, and someone also mentioned in the comments that film festivals is a great place to network. Because I think so far the things we've mentioned are more like audio people meeting audio people, but what you kind of also want is to meet other filmmakers. You want to meet writer directors, producers, or just anyone, like a cinematographer or a colorist, because those people would randomly then have connections to projects that they need a sound designer on. So I think in London, like the BFI London Film Festival, there are lots of film festivals. Or if you have a specific interest, like short film festival or an animation festival, or specific type of cinema that you like, you could like go to the Q&As and literally just talk to the filmmakers afterwards. And yeah, there are lots of those kind of events as well. So yeah.
Yeah, I would totally agree. I didn't even like relate to film festivals, but yeah, definitely everything that you said. You meet the actual filmmakers, you get to meet producers, you can meet cast who, at least for indie films, are most likely directing or producing their film. Like, so it's good to like just talk to people that aren't in audio, because at least like you have that connection, and like you can talk about other things too, you know, and it's not just like audio nerdy stuff. Yeah, and there's so many festivals everywhere, so it's good for people that aren't like in a major city too.
Following on for that, are there any sort of effective but maybe less obvious ways to network within the film industry and like find potential new opportunities in clients outside of that? The first one that springs to mind is maybe getting in touch with like animation courses or something like that, somewhere where people are making visual things that will need an audio component added to them. But yeah, I wondered if anyone had any ideas.
On LinkedIn, there was someone that did like a Attack of the Titans like animated thing, and they had no audio, and I was like, "Hey, can I add sound to this?" Like, I'm just doing this for fun. So that's a good way, because I still talk to that person, and like, you know, we
Nice.
chat randomly on LinkedIn. So yeah, anything where you see something that you're like, "Oh, I like can hear the sound in my head." Like, reach out to the person that made it, and then maybe, you know, there's a connection there. And even if like nothing comes from it right away, you never know. Like, couple years down the line they have something. So
Yeah. I think that's approaching certain film schools or courses, that's really good for beginners, especially because there are courses that specialize in certain things. So maybe it could be an animation course or a directing course, or, you know, let's say, I know that sometimes people who are looking for composers would like specifically write to the Royal College of Music, and they would specifically ask for their students. And yeah, like LinkedIn is also an interesting thing that I've heard people do a lot of networking on. So you just you could just write a message to someone who someone who you really liked their work on. So I know that a friend of mine, I think he messaged Johnny Byrne just to say, "Oh, I loved your sound design," and it didn't lead to anything. But I think that Johnny Byrne said thank you or something, and that's already a big win. So yeah, you could just it's like a cold call. You just reach out to people and say, "Hey, I was a fan of your work," and they, you know, the worst thing is that they ignore you, so it can't be that bad. So yeah.
That's sort of how not quite the same, but I got one of my very first kind of foots in the door in the YouTube scene by messaging a guy saying, "Hey, I really like your stuff, but your sound is not great because you're doing it yourself. Do you want to work with someone who knows what they're doing a little bit more than you do?" And yeah, that led to me working with, you know, maybe 20, 30 other people via word of mouth through this one connection. It was a long time ago, but yeah, that really lucked out for me. Yeah, you never know who you're going to meet. Just be nice to everybody, and if you like their stuff, send them a message and say hey and connect, because you never know who knows other people.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, like you said, Jane, sort of approaching, like doing a cold call, but also maybe approaching people for a bit of advice, you know.
That's a good shout.
Yeah.
People that are sort of more experienced. If you approach them and say, you know, can I get a job from you? They will be like, you know, hold on, I don't know you. But if you approach them, you know, thinking like you want to learn from them, you know, and maybe they can do a little, I don't know, little ad, little promo, little something for free even, or yeah, just learn a trick and ask them, how did you do this or that? And yeah, people are more likely to respond if you want help or advice from them.
That's a really good
totally
shout.
agree.
Yeah, I feel like if anyone asks me a question about audio, I talk for like 20 minutes. Like, it's not like I'm so open to talk about stuff. So it's nice when other people do that as well, you know, like you can reach out to veterans and they respond to you like saying stuff. So
For sure. What advice would you have for someone starting out who may not have many completed film projects to showcase?
redesigns, do a redesign. Those are always helpful, not just in game audio, but I think in general it shows like that you're able to, create stuff from scratch and do all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a huge thing in the game audio community as well. Like typically if people want to work in games, they make a showreel, and one way of doing that is to redesign something that's already been done. So taking a clip from a game or a game cinematic or something like that. You can't do too many. There's no such thing. Do as many as you can physically do, but in that process you'll get better, you'll get quicker. There's some showreels I've seen or some websites I've seen where people have done maybe 2, and you can tell that they're just the first couple that they've done. But do 50 and see where you are by that point.
And I would argue that you could do the same for like ad work, because like ad and film, they kind of go like they're both linear. And like if you're not good at VO, like it's okay. It's not really about that. It's more about like what you can do. So like get a friend maybe that would be okay with being on microphone. But yeah, anything to help kind of like showcase the things you want to work on, I think are super helpful.
Yeah. Any thoughts, Jane?
Yeah, that's definitely a way to build up your portfolio. I think, if you're just starting out, I think I used to do that. Like I would just say yes to everything. So if somebody asked me to do something for free, or if the project was kind of, not great, like the film is a bit not really my thing, or I can tell that it's not a very good film, I would still work on it. I've worked on many questionable projects in the past, but it's kind of like, even like one of the films in my I did at uni was, objectively a terrible film, but I still put my 100% effort into the sound, and that film got me a nomination for the MPSC Student Film Award, and because the other aspects of the film were not great, but the sound was, it had some merit. So even if the film is crap, you could still make it sound good. So
and there's still stuff to learn from it as well, right? There's still stuff to learn about the process and working with the director and everything else. So yeah, that's a really good shout.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts, Ania?
Yeah, I think that's a good way of Jane kind of looking at it. Even if like a project is, let's say, questionable, or you don't like the genre, if someone approaches you with a film and maybe it's low budget, think of what other things you can benefit from working on that project. So maybe it's not your genre, but it challenges you in creating different kind of sound effects or sound design, or maybe it's an actor playing there that is, you think, excellent actor and might go far, or the producer is good to connect with, so it's I would definitely do redesigns, but also I find that people coming out of universities very often do redesigns and don't have access to any dialogue recordings from location, so don't have experience working with dialogue. And that's the first thing you're going to do when you're working on a short film. Someone is going to give you location recordings and you have to clean them up. So I would say go to like filmmaking courses where BAs for direct, with tons of directors producing their first short film, and ask if you can work on them for free. So you have free kind of live current project to work on with all the files from location recording, and you can clean them up, and and having that something in portfolio is actually really valuable. Like definitely for me, if I was gonna try and fish out an assistant for dialogue editing, I would probably look at someone who's got experience with dialogue editing, because redesigning is sort of like doing an ad. And kind of yeah, so that's just work on live projects, I think, more than redesigning if you can.
For sure. I mean, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there. You can only go so far with redesigns in the film world, I think. In games, it's a little bit different because the redesigns are typically a bit closer to working on a game, in that you'd normally go to a VO studio for any VO that's recorded, so you wouldn't need to worry too much about dialogue editing unless the studio's noisy or there's someone making drum and bass next door to the VO booth or something. But normally it's not too clean intensive. But yeah, working on short films, I think, is such a good way to get quicker in all aspects of film audio. Let's talk a little bit about portfolios on that topic. Obviously, having a strong portfolio is really important. What do you think it should include for someone who's just starting out or looking to get their first gig?
I think maybe a bit of variety. So if it's a film portfolio, like have a drama, a documentary, an animation, or something with a bit of VFX in it, that could usually go a long way to just showing that you're versatile.
Yeah,
Definitely. I would say the same. Like I said, like what those live projects, ideally for me, because that's definitely a big one for me. If they can work with location recordings and understand the workflow between the editor and the sound team, because if you're doing redesigns, then you're not really talking to anyone. There's no workflow issue from one department to another. So yeah, a bit of everything, but also equally, if you want to maybe specialize in something, there's nothing wrong in just saying, it's just having, like, if you want to specialize in game audio, just have game audio in your portfolio, or I don't know, maybe documentary films. You can do that as well. But yeah, I think in our film world, there's a lot of sort of we kind of a niche, and then creating different niches within that. So like sound effects editors, or for TV, or documentary sound people are we sort of maybe a bit divided. Like I saw someone on the chat saying that there's not a lot, like the film folk or film sound people are not very well connected. There's something about that sort of like I think putting ourselves or each other into pigeonholes maybe. So not sure where I was going with it, but being versatile and showing that you're versatile, I think definitely is an asset.
I've heard that from friends of mine working in the sort of the London TV world, that if they're working in factual, they can really find it hard to move into the drama side. So I think that's, I don't know why there is that, and maybe that's a higher up thing. The people in charge don't want to, or don't trust someone who's only worked in factual that they can do a good job doing SFX for drama or something, or they need to prove themselves extra hard to move between the two. But yeah,
that's quite frustrating. Yeah, that's quite frustrating, Dan. I found that as well, and I think it's not necessarily down to sound people, because sound people kind of understand that there are transferable skills. It's maybe post-production supervisors or producers somehow looking at your portfolio, as your CV, and looking, oh, you haven't done TV, so you can't work in TV because you're not experienced. And that's not true. I mean, the only thing of going into TV, obviously there are shorter, like, stricter deadlines, shorter time, and to do what you have to do. But you can, so it's a bit of a shame, really.
Yeah. I'm going to try and speed through a couple more questions, and then we're going to go into Q&A. Does anyone remember how long we have over? Because we're already past an hour. Do we have an hour and a half, or is it an hour and 20 minutes?
I think an hour and 20.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get going. How important is it to have a strong brand or unique selling proposition as a film audio professional, or like a strong social media presence? Is that important, do you think? Or once you have an in-house gig, it doesn't really matter too much?
I think it matters if you're trying to work with new people. But I would say like a lot of it, at least for me, is like word of mouth of like, oh hey, I just worked with Victoria, I really liked working with her. If they have a filmmaker friend that's about to make a film, maybe they'll like suggest me. Like I find like if you're easy to work with and you like work and you're like very communicative and stuff, like people just are like, oh, I loved working with this person, so why not bring them onto more projects? So
yeah,
I totally agree. Yeah, I think like social media wise, it's a lot of people have an Instagram portfolio. It's a nice quick way for someone to get to know you. I also find that having a website really helps. So if someone wants to work with me, I just send them my website and everything is on there. I put a lot more effort into my website than my Instagram. But in terms of having like a personal brand or a personal style, I don't really think that's really a thing in film audio. I think that a lot of film audio professionals, we all know how to do the same things. Like unless you're an auteur or like a big sound designer who's like, I don't know, Johnny Byrne or Paul Davies or you unless you're at that level, you don't really have a brand or a style per se. So it's more just about here's a portfolio, here's some things I've done, being quite neutral about it. There's not really a need to be like, oh, I'm super different and I do stuff that is revolutionary. Like that's sort of maybe a little bit too much. But yeah, that's just what I think personally.
I think I broadly agree. Yeah, I think on my website I try and show off as much of the different things I've done as possible, because you've got to be able to do a bit of everything to do film or advert work. Let's jump into the Q&A. I'm going to start spotlighting some of these questions. Hopefully this works. So typically, what would you say are the skills that transfer well from game audio to linear post, and which skills are usually missing that we need to make sure to learn in order to have a better chance getting hired for linear content? That's a long question. I would say skills typically go, although they can go from game to audio post, I'd say the skills transfer better from audio post to games, that way around. The things that you miss from doing game audio, as Ania was mentioning, was anything to do with dialogue editing for linear media, which is what you're going to be doing a lot of at the start, typically, or on short films when you're getting started. A lot of that is cleaning up really badly recorded audio, and you probably won't have to deal with that working on games. Other aspects of sound design and stuff transfer quite well, but yeah, I suppose that's the big one. Anyone want to chime in?
I suppose the other stuff is more of the workflow and the understanding of the team structure or understanding of the other members of the team. So, for example, I haven't had any game audio experience, and I would find it really difficult to understand what game developers are doing because I don't understand that part of the process. So for the other way around, like having a good understanding of how filmmakers work, what does the DOP do? Like, what does the producer do? What does the executive producer do? And things like that, I think, goes a long way with having good communication with the team. So, yeah.
That's such a good answer. I would say as well, if you're looking to get into film audio, if you can volunteer or help boom up or help the sound assistant or the sound recordist on set and work on some film sets, you get such a good insight into how things work on set, which then can help you understand maybe how things have gone wrong when they get to post sometimes. Cool. Question from Stephanie Ramirez, have you ever received backlash for requesting to be brought onto the production earlier? How do you avoid overstepping? I've never. I think by the time I'm told about a project, it's usually once the edit's been done. It's too late to look at a script at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Anyone
don't.
else have experience?
Yeah, typically it's like they're approaching us when they're approaching us, you know, like we can't be like, "Hey, bring me on earlier when you talk to me in a month," you know? Like so it's a little hard, but I always try to remind people that I'm working with like, "Hey, like next time I'd love to like read the script or like, you know what you're doing, where you're shooting, because maybe I could go record something or you can like kind of get in that way." So yeah, it just depends on when they come in. But no backlash, no backlash at all.
Yeah, I think I tried answering that question actually. Like Victoria, you can't really ask, if someone approaches you just about going into samples, you can't undo what is done already. So, but I often, if someone flags up, or I've got a film, and are you going to be free in 2 months' time? I might ask them. I usually ask them, if they could send me a work in progress cut of the film, so I get an idea of the style of the actors, how it looks like, and start getting ideas in my head. And usually I say, it gives me time to come up with creative ideas, but also work out what's the workload. Then they kind of, there's no backlash, but yeah.
That's a bit of a bugbear for me when people get in touch and they say, "Oh, how can you work on my project? It's 15 minutes long. How much is that going to cost?" And I'm like, I have no idea what is in your film at all. Send me an edit and then I can make that call. But it could be 15 minutes of one guy sitting in a chair just talking to the camera. It takes 10 minutes to do a 15-minute thing. Or it could be a huge fight scene with explosions and aliens and all sorts of stuff. And it could take you 3 weeks. So without an edit, you can't do a lot. One from Lewis here. How do you deal with directors, producers who don't understand sound or are asking for things that are unreasonable?
Yeah. I mean, that's when I would be like, "Okay, so this is what we do, this is what I would do if I were to work on your project," and like walk them through all the audio steps of like dialogue editing, sound effects editorial, Foley. And then if they're asking for unreasonable things, I don't know. I feel like most things when we talk about it, you're like, "Yeah, totally." Like when you're doing a spotting session with a director, like you're so pumped to work on the project. So everyone's like really happy. But like if they wanted to ADR like an entire scene without even us touching dialogue, that could be like pretty unreasonable. So it's like, "Hey, let us take a pass at this. Like it does sound bad right now, but you're probably listening to like just the mix from the location audio person. So let's see what the AAF has and go from there."
That's a good shout. Jane or Anya?
Yeah. I guess it's all about the communication, and trying to predict whether problems are going to arise later on. I guess the most unreasonable things that I usually come across are, can you mix this 50-minute documentary in one day? Just people being not they just not understanding the process, not understanding how much time it takes or how much it costs. So those are the things that are usually the causes for the misunderstanding or things being unreasonable. So yeah, I guess you just have to be calm and patient and explain that I can't mix 50 minutes in one day. Unfortunately, that's no one can do things like that, or it's trying to be reasonable, and to lower their expectations on those.
Yeah, because I guess like a lot of like some notes that are pretty crazy is like, well, you don't understand what goes into like us doing that, right? So like you kind of have to be like, "Okay, well, that's going to take an extra day or something." So yeah, like definitely like education, number one. Like, explain what we have to do for it, especially if it's like we can't do that right now if we're like mixing, you know, we'd have to like spend tomorrow designing that or whatever.
Yeah, that's some really good answers. Next one. I've currently dropped from almost 4-year-long contract with a media company. I'm curious how it would be best to start freelancing, approaching other companies. Any tips? I feel like we kind of covered this in some ways through the talk. This was from quite early in the talk, actually, so maybe we've covered this a little bit already.
Yeah, like getting the content you've done together, if you can, if it's like online and available to you.
Collating anything that you've done into sort of into a portfolio or a show reel or something would be a really good first step. Other than that, I guess networking is always the place to go. We're really running out of time. We've got about 5 minutes left, so I'm just going to go through and pick a couple at random. How much of work for the film as sound designer is in the box versus needs to be in an audio control room with large console speakers showroom? I don't know if I should be saying this out loud. I've done quite a lot of my career has been done in a bedroom, near enough, or something similar. I might take a film with a healthier budget to a mix stage in London to do the final mix, but I have done about 15 years of work in something in a bedroom or similar. You don't necessarily need much more than some good speakers, a good interface, and a good PC to run stuff on. You can do most things in the box if you have to. It's obviously nice to go to a really nice studio and have a lovely time, but you can get away with very little if you need to. Does anyone else want to chime in?
Yeah, I think I've tried also to answer that question. I mean, you're not in the old days, you know, your film would have to be Dolby certified, mixed in a Dolby certified studio, etc. But with going digital, you're not forced to do any of that. And very often freelancers are working in their home studios or other studios, their own individual studios editing. You technically don't have to mix anything as well in a Dolby certified studio, but as Dan said, with a healthy budget, I would feel anxious sending anything final deliverables to a producer and say you can release it to cinemas if I haven't checked it in a mixing studio. So in terms of all the automation, all the plugins and everything is in the box. So you can take it to a different studio. So it's in the box, but I would go to a mixing studio for sure if it's for cinema, definitely, and for TV as well if it's like a high-end production.
I would say for on the game side of things as well, for AAA games where they've got the beefiest budgets. I've never done this because I've maybe worked in AA. That's kind of the as big as I've gone. But on AAA, they do tend to take their games to proper dubbing stages or mixed theaters to do the final mixing of their game, to make sure that it sounds as good as it can and it translates as well as it can to as many formats as possible, whether that's Atmos or whatever else. I don't know. Do we want to risk it and try and squeeze one more?
One more.
Oh, here's a little one. What's the next milestone that you're working towards?
Wow.
No one has any milestones.
I actually want to do more game stuff.
Oh.
I've been mixing for a little bit now, and that's been really fun. I love it. It's awesome. But yeah, trying to do more game stuff.
Nice.
Yeah, I want to diversify because for a long time I've worked in films and TV, and I actually want to work more on podcasts and audio only stuff, but I wouldn't mind actually dipping my toes in games as well. I've looked at it a few years ago, but it all looked intimidating. So I think it's maybe it's not intimidating as it looks, but it's not as hard as it looks. But yeah.
If you want to learn about it, you're in the right place. Air Wiggles is the place to be, I think.
Great.
How about yourself, Jane?
Yeah, I think for me, I I would like to get more into feature films and also animation. I think those are some things that I haven't really done. So I would love to just try to build a bit more of a portfolio towards that. Like I feel like I've been mainly doing TV for the last few years. So yeah, maybe that would be the next thing to aim for.
I think I'd agree. I've done a lot of short projects recently, and I want something a bit chunkier. Like a nice feature film would be good. It's been a couple of years since I did my last feature, so I'm kind of itching to do something a bit bigger with a bit more oomph to it. I think we've got to wrap it up here. It looks like we have about 15 seconds left, and I don't know what happens if we run out of time. So I'm going to press the end stream button, and hopefully that's all good. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming, and thank you to all of the speakers for imparting your wisdom. If anyone has any burning questions that aren't answered, and we're still going. If anyone has any burning questions, feel free to hit me up on AirWiggles or something, or find a way to get in touch with me. My name is Dan Pugsley, and I'll do my best to field those questions. Thank you so much, and
Thanks
see you in a bit.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Great.